Hello and a very good morning to all Newsline viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top national and international stories of this hour. We begin with, in Nepal's capital Kathmandu, clashes erupted between protesters and police on Thursday. The demonstrators were divided into two groups with different demands. One group, the youth organization Nepal, linked to the main opposition Communist Party of Nepal, called for the removal of the current government led by Prachanand, citing corruption concerns. Now, one group, the youth organization Nepal, linked to the main opposition Communist Party of Nepal, called for the removal of the current government led by Prachand, citing corruption concerns. On the other side, the Pro-Monarchy Durga Prasai group sought to reinstate Nepal as a Hindu state. The clashes between these groups led to injuries, with at least 30 people, including 5 policemen, reported hurt. The riot police used battens and tear gas to disperse the protesters. The youth organization Nepal staged their protest rally near the Tribhuvan International Airport in the Tinkuni area, while the Durga Prasai group organized their demonstration in the Balkhu area on the outskirts of Kathmandu. Both groups expressed their dissatisfaction with the governments that have been in power since the monarchy was abolished about 15 years ago. Now, they claimed that these governments failed to fulfill commitments to develop Nepal, which remains one of the poorest countries globally. Right on your screens, visuals coming in from Nepal, where tens of thousands of people, these demonstrators, protesters, clashed with the police, demanding a restoration of Nepal's monarchy. The police had to resort to lathi charge and tear gas shelling to halt these supporters of Nepal's former king, who were attempting to march to the capital on Thursday, demanding the restoration of monarchy and the nation's former status as a Hindu state. Moving on now, Irish police reported that 5 individuals, including 3 young children, were hospitalized after an incident identified by local media as a stabbing in Dublin city centre. Prime Minister confirmed that the police had apprehended a suspect. According to a witness, a man making stabbing motions from across the road. Now, as she approached, she discovered the 2 children had been stabbed to the best of her knowledge. Police indicated that one girl sustained serious injuries while the other 2 children are undergoing treatment for less severe injuries. An adult female is being treated for serious injuries and an adult male has, in fact, relatively less injuries, as per the police statement. Reports from local media stated that the incident occurred on Dublin's Parnell Square, adjacent to O'Connell Street, the city's primary thoroughfare. The scene, where approximately 20 officers were present, remains sealed off. This is also according to the police. 3 children have sustained grievous injuries following this attack. 5 people have been injured after stabbing incident took place in central Dublin. 3 children have been injured, and following this, there has been a massive protest. Right on your screens, visuals of the same. Protesters also clashed with the police, set several buses on fire. 5 individuals, including 3 young children, have been hospitalized. This was following an incident of stabbing in the Dublin city centre. So far, 1 arrest has been made into this particular incident. A suspect has been apprehended by the police. We'll get back to you with more details on the same. On Thursday, North Korea's state media showcased the successful launch of its inaugural spy satellite, marking the 3rd attempt after 2 previous failures. This event followed leader Kim Jong-un's rare visit to Russia in September, during which President Vladimir Putin pledged support for Pyongyang's satellite development. In response to Seoul's suspension of a 2018 military accord, the day before, North Korea announced plans to reinforce its armed forces and introduce new weapons along the border with South Korea. The Defense Ministry of North Korea expressed intent to resume all military measures previously halted under the agreement, initially designed to ease tension along their shared border. Now, North Korea said on Thursday it would deploy stronger armed forces and new weapons on its border with the South, a day after Seoul suspended part of a 2018 inter-Korean military accord in protest over Pyongyang's launch of a spy satellite. Take a look.
North Korea said on Thursday it would scrap a military deal with the South and deploy more troops along their shared border. That's after Seoul suspended part of a 2018 pact with the North a day earlier, in protest over Pyongyang's launch of a spy satellite earlier this week. North Korea's defense ministry said in a statement, quote, "From now on, our army will never be bound by the September 19th North-South military agreement," and quote, "We will withdraw the military steps taken to prevent military tension and conflict in all spheres, including ground, sea, and air, and deploy more powerful armed forces and new type military hardware in the region along the military demarcation line." The statement came hours after Pyongyang fired a ballistic missile toward the sea on Wednesday. South Korea said that launch appeared to have failed. Tuesday's satellite launch was North Korea's 3rd attempt this year, after 2 failures. It came after North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, made a rare trip to Russia, during which Russian President Vladimir Putin vowed deeper cooperation, including helping Pyongyang build satellites. Seoul says it's likely Russia helped in technical aspects of the launch, which drew condemnation worldwide for flouting UN resolutions that bar Pyongyang from tech that could be used in ballistic missile programs. Seoul believes the satellite has entered orbit, but said it needs more time to work out if it was functional. In response to the launch, South Korean Prime Minister Hang Duck-soo announced partially suspending the 919 agreement, an inter-Korean military pact signed in 2018, until, quote, "mutual trust is restored between the 2 Koreas." One of the concrete steps is immediately resuming military observation of the North's forces in border areas. The U.S. says Seoul's suspension of the deal was a, quote, "prudent and restrained response," citing Pyongyang's, quote, "failure to adhere to the agreement."
The European Union has promised Ukraine 1 million rounds of artillery by March 2024, but as it stands, the bloc has delivered less than a third of that supply. Ammunition manufacturers say the problem starts way before it gets to them. Take a look.
The challenges of weapons manufacturing may have come as an unpleasant surprise for politicians who promised Ukraine 1 million rounds of ammunition by next March.
It's not so that you can just drive a truck up to a defense company and just tell them how much you want and leave the same day. It's not like that.
Norway's Nammo is one of the world's leading suppliers of ammunition, with 27 manufacturing facilities across a dozen countries.
These steel tubes, still hot from the forging process, will become some of those coveted 155mm shells here at Nammo's Raufoss manufacturing facility. But what producers explain is that they can't fill orders they haven't received. And so the responsibility for this dramatic scale-up in output being expected doesn't start here.
While the number of contracts for ammunition has increased, That alone isn't enough to boost production to the levels that are needed. There are other obstacles hindering large-scale orders and joint procurement. For example, while NATO countries primarily use 155mm caliber guns and ammunition, there are 14 variations of these artillery shells because each country produces them with slight differences. Some industry leaders are calling for the standardization of defense products, even though these different specifications are seen as favoring manufacturers. But the CEO of Finland's Patria Group, Esa Rautalinko, says those days should be over.
The market is very protectionist, not just in Europe. I think it's a global phenomenon. And what the industry needs to realize is that if we are just sub-optimizing our own production capabilities, so things will not change fast enough. If we have different equipment that are not standardized enough, it means that it's a logistical nightmare.
NATO's top military official urges more cohesion at the political level, so supplies get to where they're needed at the tactical level.
We have to agree that we have to stop doing that, because a soldier in the field is not interested whether the artillery round comes from factory A, B or C in whatever country. They don't care. They just want the ammunition to be able to hit the target.
NAMO says it has more than tripled production in some areas over the last 2 years, and it's expanding its facilities. But what happens if demand drops dramatically after the end of the war in Ukraine? NAMO CEO Morten Brandtzæg is suggesting 10 to 15-year production contracts to deal with such future uncertainty.
I think we have to share the risk, because it's also very important that these defense companies, that they are kind of profitable and that we can reinvest in R&D.
Brandtzæg won't offer a prediction on whether there's any way some 700,000 more rounds of ammunition can be sent to Ukraine by March. He'll only say it will take his company much longer than that just to fill the orders it already has.
Now, Finland has announced plans to close nearly all entry points along its border with Russia, aiming to curb the influx of asylum seekers from the neighboring country. This decision comes amid escalating tensions between the two nations, particularly following Finland's recent entry into NATO earlier this year. Take a look.
Finland said it will close all crossing points on its border with Russia, except for the northernmost one, from midnight Friday. That's in a bid to stop a flow of asylum seekers, which Helsinki said was instigated by Russia as a retaliation for Finland's closer defense ties with the US. Helsinki angered Moscow when it joined the NATO military alliance in April following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Finland's Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen.
Russia is effectively instrumentalizing people, not only letting people through to the Finnish border with invalid documents or missing documents, which has not been the case before, but also we have evidence that Russia is effectively bringing those people to the border and organizing transport as well.
Since the beginning of the month, more than 600 people without valid travel documents to the European Union have come to Finland via Russia. That prompted Helsinki to shut several crossings and accuse Moscow of funneling migrants, a charge the Kremlin denies. This video obtained by Reuters shows several groups of people near the Russian-Finnish frontier walking in direction of the border. Reuters could not verify when the video was filmed. The EU's border agency Frontex said it plans to deploy more officers and equipment to Finland as soon as next week in response to a request from Helsinki. All the crossings except the Raja-Jooseppi checkpoint will be shut until December 23rd. Finns wanting to enter Russia will also be barred. The Finnish government said it will also seek to amend legislation that prevents it from closing the entire border. The Kremlin earlier said it had launched a formal protest over the partial border closure, accusing Finland of being Russophobic.
Now, before OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's 4 days in exile, several staff researchers had warned the board about a powerful artificial intelligence discovery that they said could threaten humanity. Take a look.
There's another twist in the OpenAI saga involving a possible breakthrough in artificial intelligence and a staff letter warning the board about it before CEO Sam Altman's brief firing. That's according to people familiar with the matter, who told Reuters the researchers' letter raised concerns that the discovery could threaten humanity. The sources said this was a key development ahead of Altman's sudden Friday ouster from the company that made the powerful chatbot ChatGPT. Altman was reinstalled late Tuesday after hundreds of employees threatened to quit. Reuters was unable to review the letter, and OpenAI declined to comment on it. According to one of the sources, the project involved is called QStar, and some internally believed progress made on QStar could be a breakthrough in the startup's search for superintelligence, also known as artificial general intelligence. OpenAI defines AGI as AI systems that surpass humans in most economically valuable tasks. Reuters could not independently verify the capabilities of QStar. Altman has previously spoken of concerns over superintelligent machines that are shared by many computer scientists.
My worst fears are that the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world.
The board had vaguely cited a lack of candor and the need to defend OpenAI's mission to develop AI that benefits humanity in firing Altman. Before the issue of the letter came to light, Cornell University's Tech Policy Institute director Sarah Krebs said the saga will dog the company until more answers are given.
What was sort of the grave misstep, and should we be concerned? Should investors be concerned? Should governments be concerned? Should citizens be concerned? So without a bit more transparency, I do think those will be some unanswered questions that will linger.
Krebs said the new board installed alongside Altman's return as CEO appears to be more aligned with his vision of accelerating the development of AI, while, she says, also ensuring safeguards are in place.
Oscar-winning actor Jamie Foxx is being sued for allegedly groping a woman at a Manhattan rooftop bar in 2015. Now, a lawsuit filed in New York on Wednesday identifies the plaintiff only as Jane Doe. It says the sexual assault occurred after she and a friend approached the film star and had their pictures taken with him.
Oscar-winning actor Jamie Foxx is being sued for allegedly groping a woman at a Manhattan rooftop bar in 2015. A lawsuit filed in New York on Wednesday identifies the plaintiff only as Jane Doe. It says the sexual assault occurred after she and a friend approached the film star and had their pictures taken with him. Fox's representatives did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The complaint says Foxx began groping the woman and putting his hands under her clothes against her will, until her friend found the two of them and interrupted the encounter. Jane Doe is seeking unspecified damages. Foxx is best known for his Academy Award-winning portrayal of singer Ray Charles in the 2004 film Ray. The actor is one of the latest high-profile celebrities accused of sexual wrongdoing in a recent series of lawsuits filed under the Adult Survivors Act. The New York state law allows victims of sexual abuse to sue alleged abusers even if the statutes of limitations have run out. The deadline for the special one-year window for such complaints expires at the end of this month.
Amid clashes on Lebanon's border with Israel, around 50,000 people, according to the UN, have been displaced. The region faces economic struggles aggravated by the influx of refugees, leading to tensions among locals. Many refugees encountering hostility and limited job opportunities are considering leaving for Europe or other countries. Take a look.
Rose Rostam has had her life uprooted before. This time, she's among the some 50,000 people the UN says have been displaced because of clashes on Lebanon's border with Israel. On October 7th, a war started between Gaza and Israel. Hezbollah started firing at Israel, and we live near the border in a village called Burj al-Maluk. Then the shells began to land very close. And we have children. Of course, they get very scared. We couldn't stay in the house and hear the shelling and firing. We were frightened. We then went to Sidon, to my brother-in-law's house. It marks the third time conflict has driven her from her home. During Lebanon's civil war in the 1980s, she moved twice. The first time because of Israeli bombardment. The second was to flee Palestinian militant attacks. Lebanon is a nation of displaced peoples. The influx of Palestinians following the creation of Israel in 1948 helped spark the Lebanese civil war decades later. In 2006, hundreds of thousands were displaced during the Israel and Hezbollah war. Then came Syria's civil war in 2011, which led to the arrival of 1.5 million refugees. That, combined with the 2019 financial collapse, which destroyed Lebanon's economy, has left many without an income or job. The combination of economic despair and the influx of refugees is sparking tension with locals. Meanwhile, many refugees, faced with growing hostility and low work prospects, are eyeing Europe and other countries. Rostem says her family used to be comfortable when her husband sold car parts, but he was forced to close up shop when the fighting began. Now she checks the news to see if her house was among the latest hit by rockets.
Reports reveal that King Charles III might be profiting from the deaths of citizens in northwest England. The Duchy of Lancaster, overseen by his estate, has allegedly gained millions from assets left by people who passed away without a will or known relatives. Although the Duchy claims these funds go to the charities, leaked documents suggest otherwise. It suggested that the money is used to upgrade properties owned by the king, generating profits for the royal estate. A leaked document called SA9 reportedly authorized officials at the king's estate to utilize funds from unclaimed estates on various profit-generating ventures. These included upgrades to townhouses, holiday rentals, countryside cottages, agricultural structures, and even a former petrol station. Additionally, the funds were allegedly used for barns utilized in Yorkshire for, partridge hunting. Reports found several deceased individuals whose assets went to the king's estate, contrasting their modest lifestyles with lavish properties funded by their assets. This news has sparked outrage among friends of the deceased, labeling the practice as disgusting and not ethical. The Duchy of Lancaster and Buckingham Palace have refrained from commenting on the issue.
Mr. President.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Now, the war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 49th day. Let's get you the latest update right on your screens. Ceasefire between Israel and Hamas war to begin from 7 a.m. local time today. The first group of captives held in Gaza will be released this afternoon. Israel steps up attacks across Gaza ahead of pause. Israeli forces strike Indonesian hospitals' main gates. Israel's military arrests director of al-Shifa hospital. Talking about the death toll, at least 14,532 Palestinians have been killed in the war. Meanwhile, fighting continues across Lebanon-Israel border. That's the latest from day 49 of the Israel-Hamas war. Israeli forces and Hamas terrorists will begin a 4-day ceasefire on Friday. Now, 13 Israeli women and children hostages are expected to be released during the day. The ceasefire will begin at 7 a.m. on Friday, that is today, and the first hostage release is in fact due at 4 p.m. That is what a Qatari foreign minister spokesperson has confirmed. The foreign ministry spokesperson has confirmed that the ceasefire will begin at 7 a.m. and the first hostage release will take place at 4 p.m. The spokesperson also confirmed that they expect aid to start moving into Gaza through the Rafah crossing as soon as the ceasefire begins. Both sides have agreed to resume the fight after the temporary stop. Now, these will be complicated days and nothing is certain. Even during this process, there could be changes. Control over northern Gaza is the first step of a long war and we are preparing for the next stages. That is what Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari has said. Before the ceasefire, Israel stepped up its attacks on Gaza. Israeli jets hit over 300 targets and the troops engaged in fighting around the Jabalia refugee camp in North Gaza. Hamas is believed to have taken at least 240 Israelis as hostages during its October 7 deadly assault attack inside Israel. Now, in the deal struck between Israel and Hamas brokered by Qatar, Egypt and the United States, it is expected that 50 Israeli hostages will be returned in exchange for a 4-day pause in hostilities and the release of 150 Palestinians. In fact, not only Israeli hostages, but 50 hostages overall will be released in exchange for a 4-day pause and the release of 150 Palestinians. An Israeli army video released on Thursday showed Israeli military chief of staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi speaking to commanders in Gaza and saying fighting will continue, quote-unquote, until we are victorious. Both Israel and Hamas said they will go back to fighting once the truce is over.
אנחנו מנסים לחבר בין מטרות המלחמה שהלחץ בתמרון הוא זה שיביא את היכולת להשיג גם את מטרת המלחמה הזו, לייצר את התנאים לשחרור החטופים. אנחנו לא מסיימים את המלחמה. אנחנו ממשיכים עד הניצחון והולכים קדימה וממשיכים באזורים אחרים של חמאס.
Reports are coming in that Hamas has made further demands to the already delayed hostage truce deal. Citing an Israeli government source, the report said that the additional demands have been made so far, though it is not clear what those demands are. Hamas originally said the deal was supposed to go into effect this morning at 10, but late last night, Israel noted that it was not going to begin until at least tomorrow. Qatar has promised an update on the situation imminently. New demands could delay the truce, and these demands have been put forth by Hamas. This is according to reports. This suggests that Hamas has made further demands to the already delayed hostage truce. Do remember that this particular hostage truce deal was set to take place on Thursday, that is yesterday, but it was delayed by a day, and now reports are indicating that it could be delayed further. A report citing an Israeli government source has said that additional demands have been made by Hamas terrorist organization. Mohammed Abu Salmiya, director of Gaza's largest hospital, has been arrested by the Israeli army along with other senior doctors from al-Shifa hospital, the largest medical facility in the Gaza Strip. According to reports, Salmiya was arrested on suspicion of allowing the hospital to be used by Hamas as an operations center. A joint statement issued by the IDF and Shin Bet stated. Mohammed Abu Salmiya was arrested along with several other senior doctors. Khalid Abu Samra, a chief of department of the hospital, said. Now, according to reports, Salmiya was detained as he was moving to evacuate to the south of the strip via an IDF-opened humanitarian corridor. The United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, has said that Gaza Strip is the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell told the UN Security Council that more than 5,300 Palestinian children had reportedly been killed since the 7th of October when Palestinian terrorists attacked Israel, killing about 1,200 people and taking about 220 people as hostages. Israel has focused its retaliation against Hamas in Gaza, a territory of about 2.3 million people. German authorities searched 15 properties in connection with the recent ban on the activities of Hamas as well as of the pro-Palestinian group Samidun. The German Interior Ministry stated now the searches in 4 German states are intended to enforce the ban as well as clear up illegal structures of Hamas, designated a terrorist organization in the country, and Samidon, it said. Now, according to the ministry, there are around 450 members of Hamas in Germany whose activities range from support and propaganda to financing and the collection of donations.
Wir stehen nicht nur solidarisch an der Seite Israels und der jüdischen Menschen auf der ganzen Welt und vor allen Dingen natürlich in Deutschland, sondern wir handeln auch, und das zeigen die neuerlichen Maßnahmen heute, die Exekutivmaßnahmen, die wir infolge der Verbote von Hamas und Samidun vollzogen haben.
United Kingdom's David Cameron on Thursday visited the site of an Israeli kibbutz which was targeted during the deadly attack by Hamas gunmen on the 7th of October, in which 1,200 people were killed. He was shown a number of destroyed rooms in the kibbutz Be'eri, along with visiting one of the scenes of the 7th of October attack. During Cameron's visit to the region, he is expected to meet Israeli and Palestinian leaders as well.
I've heard things and seen things that obviously I will never forget, and it's important we understand that. Today is also a day where we hope to see this humanitarian pause. I think that's important because it's an opportunity to get hostages out and to get aid in, and I hope and would urge everyone who's involved in that agreement to make sure that it happens.
Israeli forces were operating in the Israeli-occupied West Bank city of Nablus on Thursday. Now, Palestinian official news agency Wafa said that one Palestinian was killed by Israeli army gunfire during the raid in Balata camp in the city. Residents said that Israeli forces stormed the camp overnight with dozens of military vehicles and that clashes were taking place in the camp between a number of Palestinian gunmen and the army. One person was reported killed in the Israeli Defense Forces gunfire. Residents of Rafah said several people were killed in an Israeli airstrike one day ahead of an anticipated truce between Israel and Hamas. The airstrike targeted the Ubayyada family building in eastern Rafah, according to eyewitnesses, leading some to be skeptical of the effectiveness of the proposed ceasefire. Israel continues to pound Gaza even though there are talks of a ceasefire, which is all set to take place today, according to reports. Now, moving on to some other reports, to some other news that's been making headlines back home. The tunnel collapse in Uttarkashi, in which around 41 workers are trapped. We'll get you all the latest on that. Now, it happened on the 12th of November. Debris is blocking the Silkyara to Barkot and over a 60-meter stretch on the Silkyara side. They tried installing a pipe inside the tunnel for rescue, but things hit a snag on Thursday night when the drilling machine stopped. Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami is staying on site all night. He in fact stayed on site all night to oversee things. They plan to resume drilling today. The drilling has already resumed. Now, there are 41 ambulances at the Silkyara tunnel site with 31 from 108 and 10 from the administration.
हाँ गब्बर सिंह जी, मैं पुष्कर सिंह धामी बोल रहा हूँ। राम राम, कैसे हैं आप लोग? अच्छा, चलिए भाई, बहुत हम लोग बिल्कुल पास पहुँच गए हैं और बड़ी आप लोगों की हिम्मत है और बहुत ही आप लोगों के लिए सब लोग प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं यहाँ, और हम लोगों को उम्मीद भी है। मैं भी रात से आ गया हूँ, जनरल साहब भी आ गए हैं यहाँ पर, और प्रधानमंत्री जी रोज आप लोगों के बारे में रोज चिंता कर रहे हैं, रोज अपडेट लेते हैं मुझे सवेरे 7 बजे। आज भी अभी आया है, अभी बताया है, बिल्कुल 45 मीटर से आगे हम लोग आ गए हैं और मुश्किल से 10 मीटर और आना है। बीच बीच में क्या है कि सरिया वगैरह आ जा रही है ना ये, तो हाँ, तो आप लोगों को पता ही है। थोड़ा सा ये है कि हिम्मत बता के, और किसी सबकी तबीयत वगैरह अच्छी ठीक है ना वहाँ पर? चलिए, नहीं चिंता एक्चुअली में नहीं, बहुत सब लोगों की दुआ है कि जल्दी से जल्दी सब लोग बाहर आ जाएंगे। हम लोग प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं और यहाँ पर सारी चीज़ें, एम्बुलेंस की व्यवस्था कर रखी है बाहर। जैसे आप लोग बाहर आएंगे, अस्पताल की व्यवस्था है, उसके अलावा जो भी सब इंतजाम हो सकते हैं वो सारे के सारे हम लोग कर रहे हैं। और बहुत बड़ा ऑपरेशन चल रहा है, पूरे देश भर से सारी मशीनें यहाँ पर आई हुई हैं, सारे एक्सपर्ट आए हुए हैं, विदेशों के भी आए हुए हैं। ये सारी बातें सबको पता, चलिए बहुत है, ठीक है। खाना वाना पहुंच जा रहा है, अभी पानी है अंदर। हाँ, बिल्कुल टेंशन नहीं लेनी है और सबको बिल्कुल जो है कहिए कि बस जल्दी से जल्दी, और आप ही लोगों को नहीं है, आप लोगों के लिए पूरा देश लगा हुआ है, ठीक है ना। और अभी प्रधानमंत्री जी को मैंने बताया है कि उन्होंने कहा कि भाई कब तक क्या संभावना है। मैंने कहा बहुत जल्दी की संभावना है और हो जाएगा, है ना। हाँ, सब लगे हैं बिल्कुल। यहाँ हेलीकॉप्टर वगैरह भी सब व्यवस्था कर रखी है। अगर किसी को बाहर आते कोई मेडिकल वगैरह की भी जरूरत पड़ेगी तो उसके लिए भी हम लोग सब व्यवस्था कर रहे हैं। तो ठीक है, सबका ध्यान रखिए और बिल्कुल जो है बस जल्दी से जल्दी अब तो भगवान की प्रार्थना करनी है हम लोगों को कि जल्दी से जल्दी बाकी एक्सपर्ट लोग और जितने भी हमारे टेक्नीशियन हैं, ये इंजीनियर हैं, सब अपना काम कर रहे हैं, ठीक है ना। हाँ हाँ, गुड मॉर्निंग, कैसे हैं आप? कौन बोल रहे हैं? अरे सबा भाई, सब ठीक है ना? चलिए ठीक है। तो आप लोगों के घर तक सब आप लोगों के जो तस्वीर वगैरह जो वीडियो से आया था वो सब चला गया है। सब लोगों को बता दीजिए, घर वाले भी जो है सब लोग अभी जो है बिल्कुल आश्वस्त हैं सब कि आपने जो है सबका जितना मनोबल बना के रखा है यहाँ पर। मुझे सबकी जानकारी है आपके बारे में और नेगी जी के बारे में, दोनों लोगों के बारे में। आप लोगों ने जो है पूरी टीम को एकजुट रखा और स्वस्थ हैं सब लोग। आप लोग चलिए ध्यान रखिए। अब बिल्कुल हम लोग पास में पहुंच गए तो पता ही है आप लोगों को ना। हाँ, कल रात को वो जो सरिया वरिया कुछ आ गए थे बीच में ना, बीच में गढ़। हाँ, लेकिन काट दिया है, सब काट दिया है। अभी जनरल बीके सिंह साहब भी आए हुए हैं, माननीय मंत्री जी ना। हाँ, साथी में हैं। और प्रधानमंत्री जी लगातार आप लोगों के बारे में रोज चिंता कर रहे हैं, रोज सारी जानकारी ले रहे हैं और सब लोगों को उन्होंने लगा रखा है। पूरे देश भर के इंजीनियर लगे हैं। वो भी जो है अभी हम लोगों के साथ ही हैं यहाँ पर। यहाँ के बाहर के लोग भी हैं और आप लोगों के परिवार के लोगों से भी बात करवाने के लिए बोल दिया है, ये भी व्यवस्था करेंगे, ठीक है ना।
Now, there's been a bit of a snag in the rescue operation at the collapsed tunnel in Uttarakhand. The drilling work hit a roadblock due to technical issues with the auger machine. This happened just after they resumed the operation to evacuate the 41 trapped workers. International expert Arnold Dix mentioned some difficulties with the machine.
And it's teasing us because we're almost, like we're only just meters away from having a passage for our children to come back. But the machine is run out of, it's like a little bit broken. And also we've hit things that we were hoping we wouldn't hit. And the things that we hit, they're like machines, like you see the big machine up on the hill. There's one of them in there. There's a big dumper in there. There's all these machines and there's the crushed tunnel. So we're trying to find a path through all of this and the rocks and everything. Almost we've done it, but we seem to have hit something. So we've paused. The machine's being repaired right now. It should be back in operation tomorrow. And we're thinking how we'll approach it again tomorrow. But I'm not upset about that. And the reason I'm not upset, which sounds very strange, I'm disappointed, yes, but I'm not upset because the men are safe, the men are warm, the men are fed, the men have got medicine. It's the only disaster.
नहीं, अभी सिचुएशन काफ़ी ठीक है क्योंकि रात में हमें 2 हिस्सों पे काम करना था। एक तो जो मशीन का प्लेटफॉर्म उसको पुख्ता करना था, रिवैम्प करना था, वो आराम से हमने रिवैम्प कर दिया और रिवैम्प करने के बाद फिर मशीन चला करके ऑगर को निकाल दिया और पाइप के मुंह पर जहाँ पर थोड़ा सा कहीं पे दबाव था उसको दबाव को हटाने के लिए पाइप को काटने का काम अभी चल रहा है और
Well, that's all we have in this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. You have a blessed day ahead. This is me, Neha, signing off.
They picked my husband.